Why are we alone during periods of time in our spiritual awakening? This time is a gift because in our conditioning, when we're growing up surrounded by the familiar, right? The root of the word family is familiar. Now we have that love, but perhaps you feel dissatisfied because you're becoming a new version of yourself. You're awakening to things that much of the mass consciousness of humanity has not awakened to. See, the divine source, the creator, God, the universe, whatever we want to call that, goes to sleep in humanity. How could you awaken if you were never asleep? So you will become different than the majority of people simply by awakening because of the nature of this time. And it isn't an ego thing to say, most of humanity is still asleep within the dreamer. But when you start to identify as the dreamer who is awakening, you start talking about things like energy, manifestation, consciousness. Isn't it funny how some of the most brilliant people in history, right, were regarded as insane? But it is not sane to be the world's definition of sane. When you are on the leading edge, evolving your consciousness to the point, there will be periods of these time of alone and solitude. Because then you are not surrounded by the familiar patterns of people who think they know who you are. Think you are your name, think you are this label, think you are this concept of who they thought you used to be. When you go alone, when you go within, when you have a period of space from the familiar pattern, from the habitual self, from the conditioning, trying to tell you who you are, is so you have a space to really go within and discover who you are. Discover who you are as a spiritual being having a human experience, beyond the conditioning, beyond the labels. Truly in that core of the being is the I am. And the I am precedes all conditions. No condition precedes the I am. Because I am whatever I assume myself to be, so I become. So if I'm not convinced of the popular narrative, popular just means populous people, why should I convince myself just because it's popular? Why should you believe it? In this period of time, you begin to question everything. Now, I don't know anything about anything other than myself. Since I've had the experience of God residing within me, the divine, whatever you want to call it, then I know something about this life. That's it. I don't know anything about any other life other than this life. And the way that I learned something about this life that I am was really in that time of being with myself. And in that time of contemplation, in that time of deep diving, in that time of meditation, in that time of healing and integration. It's like stripping away layers of an onion. It is your true self. And your true self is beyond a name and it's beyond a label. Right? These are all just these concepts. But there's a place where you can watch the movie and you're not so attached to it. You're not so involved in it. It's like that saying, in it but not of it. And this is one of the things that you can remember, because this is what you forgot when you came here. We forget in order to remember. So I don't know anything about any other life. All I know is this life. But since the core of my life is spirit, and the core of what I know about humanity is that, then through my life, I understand something about all life. And in that time of going within, that can feel lonely. It can feel like you're all alone. But you're creating a space from the people who don't understand. Because to stay in the old reality, to stay out of a false sense of loyalty, we have a whole galactic family. You're more than your inheritance of physicality. This is an accumulation, right? And when you realize that you're more than an accumulation of memories, you can look through the memories as a witness, right? You can see them like a reel. And you're just watching each scene, but you're not identified with it. So you can be free from it. And that happens in a space of stillness. It happens in silence. It happens in spaciousness. When you have that space, when the mind is still, it's like you can see the deeper reality. You can understand the workings of your consciousness. You can become greater than your conditioning and realize that the history of your life, the struggles of your family, of your upbringing, you can see every state. It's all states of consciousness. Gets personified on the screen of space. So what we redeem is our own version of the movie, our own version of the story of humanity. That's the divine asleep within us, awakening. And as we do, we become a new version of ourselves. We experience a different story because it's a reflection. You become who you assume to be. You attract synchronicity based on that. And as you align your magnetic resonance, your inner sense of self has the space to become who you imagine yourself to be. See, society, people, the world are so unknowing. It's an unknowingness of the truth. Everyone is in that old reality. Is trying to tell you what you are. Is trying to give you a sense of meaning and purpose. Is trying to influence you to want things a certain way. But when you have the space to connect to your inner guidance, the guru is within you. Guru means the gravity of God. It's about knowing, or the ancient mystics called it gnosis. It is not the personification of somebody wearing a fancy cloth. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. But that's the surface, that's the appearance. It's really within. People can be emanations or masters of it. There was a saying that said the false prophets will come and they'll be wearing all the cloths, they'll be wearing all the garbs, they'll have all the fancy titles. Because it's not about the appearance. It doesn't matter what you're wearing. Somebody can be so absorbed in a state of knowing and peace with God and be wearing rags or a suit. It's all states. It's not that one state is better or worse for me to say for you. What if I am in a state and I want to be in another state? Why? Aligning with the essence of that feeling. Giving yourself the permission to feel and to assume that state. The inner work happens from this state to that state. When we are alone, we can see through the screen rather than identifying as the character we thought we were. Like an avatar in a video game. And inside of that state of detachment is flow. And then through that inner knowing, you become anchored and grounded. So it's like literally heaven on earth. Heaven on earth. Your state of mind and your relationship with reality. It's a state of mind. I'm in a spiritual place. It facilitates that. More people are awake here. It's also a reflection of me. But the environment is more facilitating to that experience of heaven on earth. But the heaven on earth is a verb. You can do it wherever you are. It's a state of mind. It just happens to be conducive to the state of mind. Now, if you're consistently being re-triggered and people are like, you can't talk about any of this and you want to find your tribe. I had that dream. And I realized again yesterday, my dream came true because I am the dreamer. You are the dreamer. This is the dream. When you go to sleep, that's the dream. This is the dream. This is a dream. I am the dreamer. So in the seed it is given, right? The desire. The etymologically says, given by the Father. The Father begets the Son through the Holy Spirit. Some call this Christ. Christ is not outside, it is within. This is the God within you. The Father is the imagination, gives birth to the child of your creation. This is your self-concept. It is who you are. It is mothered by the emotion, or the energy, the faith. This is not an externalized idolatry. I'm not here to have you follow me in an ism. I'm just saying that this is the root. This is the root of all true religion. You don't need a fancy cloth. You don't need a special title to know this, because this is the heart of. And when we know this, when we have that space within as well, those toxic relationships, to not distract us and re-trigger us into the same familiar, habitual patterns. It can be challenging because you don't want to leave people behind. But you've also got to prioritize your own connection to Source. By loving yourself, you do the greatest service to the world by awakening your own consciousness, by healing, by aligning with Source. You unlock your greatest gifts and you redeem the patterns of the past. You gain the gift of your ancestors, which don't want you to carry on a burden. You become, this is what they said to me, you are the living embodiment of our prayers. You are the culmination of their prayers. Allow yourself to be it. Don't let anybody convince you otherwise. Because your tribe does exist. I had that dream. So I traveled and I met. This is a worldwide shift in consciousness is happening. And so if you're watching this video, you're awake. You're awake at a time when so most of people are asleep. What a gift. When you prioritize that space of alignment, then you unlock your medicine. You are the medicine. You are the message. You are the one that you've been waiting for. So don't wait. Give yourself the space. And as you start to find yourself in that silence, which is why being alone during our spiritual awakening, alone becomes all one. Because I can be alone, but I become all one with myself, and you start to feel that self-love that can only arise like a fountain within. Then you're overflowing. You've got something to give. Naturally, guess what? Graciousness, God is graciousness. God dwells within you. So when you've that overflowing cup, it's like, oh wow, I just want to give now. It's arising from within you. It's an overflowing cup. That is the Ace of Cups. It is the overflowing waters of life within you. But you find that within. No one else can give you that. So when you stop seeking in all these trysts and relationships and external validation, find the place within yourself. You bring the light into the dark and you love what you find there. And it integrates into awareness, And then suddenly you can walk in the assumption, and that space becomes the flow state where now you're in the world, but you're not of it. And now you start rendezvousing with other people, like-minded people, in the heart-centered field of like people that are more experiencing the unity consciousness, because it's all reflection. What reality do you want to live in? Assume the feeling of that state. Give yourself the space. You don't owe the conditioning anything. You don't owe society anything. Because the greatest gift that you're going to give is to not sacrifice yourself like that. Sacrifice means to make a sacred offering. The greatest sacred offering you can make is that in coming into this space of true connection to source within you, in a way, you sacrifice the old self. You sacrifice the attachment. You let it go to allow the new version of you to emerge so that you can embody that awakening in your everyday life. And now you walk into the world and you can be in that flow state. You can be in the witness. You can be a part of it. You can play it, but then you can zoom out. You can be in your own frame, and you can play the game. It's like Neo out of the Matrix, becomes the master into the Matrix. Now, I'm not saying outside of this hologram it's like that, because we're in this divine universe, but there are layers to that, right? Of how to navigate what's going on, these shifts and changes. That as we have that rock solid connection to, then we can be who we are, regardless of what other people think. We're not tuning into other people trying to be something that we think that they want. It's what do I want? Because the Creator is indwelling. So it's wanted from a divine desire. When you unravel the programming, you actually know what your desires are. Because then you're not having these programmed ideas of shame around your own divinity, shame around your own desire, shame around your own creative energy, shame around your own sex, shame around how does it feel to you? Put everything else out. This isn't an ideology. This isn't an ism. This is an experience. How does it feel to you? That's all it is. I'm just a reflection. Because I know when I went into that space, when I first went out, I went to the mountains. And in the mountains, deep in, I was in the valley in southern Colorado. And I spent 8 months, and I went up to a temple, and I was learning elemental inner alchemy. I was learning some ancient practices, and I was also sitting in some ceremonies and stuff. And I had a lot of time because I was not connected to society, no cell service. I was cooking over a fire. I was literally chop wood, carry water. And in that time, it was the first time I unplugged from the world. And then I started to feel this connection and this magic in life returning. Now, your own version of whatever that retreat is, that coming into your cave, it's going to be unique to you. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm saying it'll just manifest. The external it's a manifestation. But that space, it gives you the space to decondition and to come into the direct connection. So you want it. Assume the state. Become the version of you. You want to become something new. It's a vibrational match to the version of you that you're embodying. You give yourself the permission. because you're no longer asking, do I need to consult somebody else or ask them for their advice on what God tells me, what my source, what my inner guidance, my soul, whatever you want to call it, tells me is right for me and that I want. I don't need to consult anybody else, because what will happen in that old reality is then people will take you off your center, and you'll start getting all these ideas and it'll start conflicting with the new version of you. But when you have that new space, you internally source it, you can also start to attract and surround yourself with people that are aligned with now what is going to bring you to that next level. It's like kind of like the wealth consciousness thing too. Like you become who you surround yourself with. But you can also have that spiritual family exist for you. So thank you for tuning in. That's also one of my intentions, that you'll see this in the offerings that I'm creating, the challenges and the transformational experiences and stuff that are coming out. Creating community through that. Because when you surround yourself with that spiritual family, then you're also creating this group meditation effect. You're creating this coherence. You're feeling supported to actually become that version of you. So if you want to stay tuned, you can also check out the link in the bio. Just join the list. And if you guys like this video, hit the thumbs up. And also comment, let me know what resonates, where you're tuning in from. And if you haven't already, subscribed, hit the bell if you want to get notifications on your phone. And also, just know that in that time, you might feel lonely, but the alone becomes all one, because you start to become all one with yourself and realize that no matter what's going on, I'm connected to everything. And then all these doors and possibilities and the infinite abundance of the universe becomes an adventure. You start to enjoy the personal development, the consciousness. It's a rabbit hole. So, saying what you already know. Reminders. Peace and many blessings.